tonight on First at 9 this Thursday the 18th of December 2025. Red alert. Evacuation notices issued in Kandy and Nuwara as heavy rains prompt landslide threats. Call for action. Opposition demands a parliamentary select committee to probe cyclone Ditwa preparedness. Government presents a 500 billion rupees supplementary estimate to parliament. Breach of duty. Special investigation reveals police negligence in the handling of the accident involving former Speaker MP Ashoka Ranwala. International aid. ADB launches a $40 million emergency assistance facility to support Sri Lanka's cyclone Ditwa recovery. IMF to review $200 million emergency fund request tomorrow.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana News Channel. I'm Tharidu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story this evening. As intensified rains bring more landslide threats, the National Building Research Organisation today issued red evacuation advisories for several divisions in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. All schools in the central province will be closed tomorrow and next Monday in view of the prevailing adverse weather. Meanwhile, the prevailing heavy rainfall has caused several reservoirs to overflow, inundating roads and low-lying areas across multiple regions.
A number of areas across several districts experienced rains last night. The highest rainfall of the 24 hours ending at 8:30 this morning was recorded from the Navakiriyaruwa area in the Bariklo district, measuring 146.7 millimeters. Against this backdrop, the National Building Research Organisation issued red landslide evacuation warnings for several divisions in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. Accordingly, warnings are active in Doluwa, Ududumbara, Madadumbara and Minipe in Kandy, and in Hanguranketa, Nildanda Hinna, Walapane and Muturata in Nuwara Elia.
පස ජලයෙන් හොඳටම සන්තෘප්ත වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ජලයෙන් තෙතබට වෙලා තියෙන නිසා මෙම ලැබෙන වර්ෂාවත් සමග ඉතාමත්ම අන්තෝදායක තත්ත්වයක් ඇති විය හැකියි. ඒ නිසා එම ස්ථාන මගහැර තමන්ගේ ආරක්ෂාව සලසාගෙන ජීවත් වෙන්න සිල්ලා
A person was injured when 3 houses in the Nugagal estate on the Hunnasgiriya Mimure road were struck by a landslide today. The safety centre at the nearby Hunnasgiriya Sivaneswara Vidyalaya was evacuated over the landslide risk, with approximately 250 people being relocated to the Hunnasgiriya Jetavanarama temple. Hanguranketa Vivekananda Tamil College in Nuwara Elia has been temporarily closed as a precaution against landslide risk. Against this backdrop, Chief Secretary of the Central Province Madhupani Piyasena announced that all schools in the province will be closed tomorrow and next Monday due to the prevailing inclement weather conditions. Meanwhile, the Victoria, Randenigala and Rantambe reservoirs are currently overflowing. Authorities advised residents living in lower-lying areas along the river Mahavali to remain vigilant as all 6 automatic gates of the Victoria reservoir are open. Additionally, Kalawewa and Kandalama Reservoir managed by the Mahavali Authority are already at capacity. The authority reports that water levels in the Bovathanna, Ibbankatuwa, Muragahakanda and Kaluganga reservoirs have also reached capacity. The opening of the spill gates of Kalawewa has led to the flooding in the Aukara-Kakirawa road near the Kalawewa bridge. The Hiripitiagama road from the Galwewa via Handungama is also submerged due to rising water levels. Several reservoirs across the island continue to overflow as a result of the heavy rains. Meanwhile, the main access road to Somavatiya temple has once again been submerged due to rainfall. Prevailing downpours have caused flooding in low-lying areas of Ampara and Tanamalwila. In upcountry areas, heavy rainfall has activated small waterfalls, including Wagala Ella and Hunnasgiriya along the Kandy Mahayangane road. Meanwhile, a temple, a school and more than 30 houses in the Bodhisuwala village in Hurampalla Minuangoda were damaged by strong winds early today. The Department of Meteorology in its latest report forecast that fairly heavy rain rains above 75 millimeters will occur in the eastern Uwa and central provinces and in the Polonnaruwa and Hambantota districts. Fairly strong winds of about 40 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the eastern slopes of the Central Hills, the northern, north central and northwestern provinces and the Trincomalee, Hambantota and Monoragala districts.
The 30% discount on Arpico Farm and Spring mattresses available at Arpico Supercenter and Arpico Daily.
International relief continues to flow in as Sri Lanka recovers in the aftermath of Cyclone Ditwa. The government announced 3 to 6 month extensions of loan repayment periods for affected businesses. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Agriculture Namal Karunaratne assured that all flood-affected farmers will be compensated by the end of December.
A cargo aircraft carrying a consignment of relief supplies donated by the French government and the European Union arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport last night. The 14 metric ton consignment includes blankets, carpets, tents, sanitary items, kitchen equipment and beds. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan expatriates from France also sent a stock of winter coats and blankets for affected people in the upcountry areas. As Sri Lanka recovers from the disaster, a discussion was held yesterday at the Ministry of Industries and Entrepreneurship to expedite the revival of industries and businesses. Officials from the central bank, along with senior representatives of all commercial banks, were in attendance. All banks have agreed to immediately extend loan repayment periods by 3 to 6 months for affected business owners. The Ministry of Industry stated that no additional fees or interest will be charged when granting this relief. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Namal Karunaratne clarified the compensation process for affected farmers.
All affected farmers will be compensated by December 31st regardless of the extent of the damage. The damage will be assessed and the corresponding compensation will be provided. If a farmer's livestock were damaged along with their crops, those damages will be compensated separately.
Meanwhile, Indra Traders Private Limited has made a financial contribution of 100 million rupees to the government's Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund to assist those affected by Cyclone Ditwa.
The Asian Development Bank has launched a $40 million emergency assistance facility under its Trade and Supply Chain Finance program to support Sri Lanka's recovery from the devastation of Cyclone Ditwa. The facility is expected to help finance essential imports including food, medicines and critical relief supplies. This new facility is in addition to the Trade and Supply Chain Finance program's current $200 million capacity for Sri Lanka. The financing will be channeled through the program's network of 6 partner banks in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund is scheduled to review the Sri Lankan government's request for emergency financial assistance tomorrow. If approved, Sri Lanka will receive access to approximately $200 million under the Rapid Financing Instrument. A supplementary estimate of 500 billion rupees was presented to Parliament today to restore normalcy to the lives affected by the recent disaster. Additionally, the adjournment debate initiated by the ruling party on the country's situation following the adverse weather-induced disaster was held today.
At the request of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, Parliament was convened today under the chairmanship of Speaker Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 16. A supplementary estimate of 500 billion rupees was presented to Parliament to support the restoration of lives affected by the recent disaster.
Honourable Speaker, I present the supplementary estimate number 1 of 2026. I move that this supplementary estimate and the document be referred to the Committee on Public Finance.
We will fully support the 500 billion supplementary estimate which is ready to be passed tomorrow. However, an effective mechanism must be established to deliver the relief promised by the government. I am holding an application to obtain the 25,000 allowance for house cleaning in Badula district. According to the circular, this application requires the signature of the chairman of the Public Safety Committees. This committee is merely an association set up by the JVP. It is sad to see politics interfering with disaster relief. We would like to remind everyone not to politicize this situation.
දේශපාලනය කරන්නට සූදානම් වෙන්න එපයි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි. කවුරුත් හරි විශ්වාස කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපදා තත්ත්වය නිසා.
Some may think our plans for 2026 and 2027 will be delayed due to this disaster, but that will not happen.
කිසිවක් අපි අතපසු කරන්නේ නැහැ.
අපි හොයමු. මේකට වග කියන්න ඕනේ කවුද?
Let's find out who is responsible for this situation and who neglected their duties. Did the president convene the disaster management committee even after months had passed since the government was established? There have been floods before as well. Were you prepared for this situation? Did you consider the warnings from the meteorological department? Without identifying those responsible, do not dismiss the disaster by saying it has rained over 500 millimeters before, causing landslides and deaths. You may laugh, but the victims are in pain. At least stop laughing now and listen. Let's sort our political issues later. For now, the priority is to safely return people from relief centers to their homes. On one hand, according to the information we have received, the damage to infrastructure alone is about 900 billion rupees. It raises the question of whether a poor country like ours can withstand this. We have not even created a proper video documenting the devastation for the global audience. We must move forward relying on the foreign aid we receive.
අපිට සුනාමියට සාපේක්ෂව විදේශ ආධාර ලැබී තියෙන්නේ 100%කටත් අඩු ප්‍රමාණයක්.
We have received less than 1% of the aid needed to cover the damage compared to over 80% we received after the tsunami. I have seen small donations from local communities and businesses. We must find ways to overcome this situation without relying on wealth we did not generate ourselves. However, if politicians try to exploit this disaster by bribing villagers, it discourages those of us who genuinely want to help. Let's rise together. This is our country as well. I would also like to highlight another issue: education reform. Another disaster is approaching in the form of education policy changes. Free education is the only survival mechanism for the poor. Do not implement shameful reforms in this situation. Bring them to a public referendum. If we destroy the education system, the consequences will be far worse than this disaster. Meanwhile, a motion signed by the leader of the opposition and 25 MPs, including the leaders of the opposition parties, calling for the appointment of a parliamentary special committee to conduct a comprehensive study and prepare a report on the lack of disaster preparedness, was submitted to Speaker Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne today.
30% discount on Arpico Farm and Spring mattresses, available at Arpico Supercenter and Arpico Daily.
Musa Phoenix Natal Fiesta November 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Senior Professor Buddhima Arube of the University of Peradeniya emphasized that Sri Lanka, as a nation highly vulnerable to climate change, must strengthen local research to support government climate initiatives rather than relying on external directives. Speaking at an event in Colombo, he noted that Sri Lanka should also encourage greater participation from the health sector in global conventions, as future climate action will increasingly focus on health-related issues. Meanwhile, Minister of Science and Technology, Professor Krishanta Besena, announced that the government will soon introduce a national policy for research and innovation.
The 2025 Presidential Awards for Scientific Research, organised by the National Research Council, were held in Colombo under the patronage of Minister of Science and Technology, Professor Krishanta Abesena, and Secretary to the President, Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumar Nayaka.
We live in an era where the strength of a nation is no longer measured solely by its natural resources, but by its capacity for innovation. The challenges we face cannot be solved by intuition alone. They require the precision and evidence-based rigor that only scientific research provides.
Climate change is real, colleagues. There are no ifs, no buts with respect to argument. It's real, it's happening. It's hitting us hard in all aspects of economic spheres in this country. When we go to sleep, we have started feeling the comfortable nights have reduced already. Things are changing dramatically, not the way that we wanted, but simply in the ways that we have never even dreamt of in certain cases. If someone was born in 2020 and when that person is 70 years old in 2090, look at the impact the person will be feeling now with respect to the temperature. Unbearable. With all that coming into picture, Colleagues, we have United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, we have Kyoto Protocol, we have Paris Agreement. All those agreements will boil down at the end to human health. So to me, all those conventions are human health related conventions, though health is something that has not received due recognition in all those international negotiations, unfortunately. Secretary Sir, I think we need more participation in the global convention from the health sector, bringing in climate change perspectives into the picture and to make sure all other sectors are centered around health and start discussing and positioning Sri Lanka in the future. I think we all can do that, can support the government of Sri Lanka, whatever the government is going to be, support the government of Sri Lanka in making a case, a strong case with respect to Sri Lanka being an island nation, having a fragile ecosystem and feeling the impact at a dramatic level of climate change. Let's try to enter into the arena of climate action and find research coming into picture so that it will support government of Sri Lanka to go ahead with climate action with our support on the other hand and with the people's support. If we do not come forward at this time, who else is going to do that? There will be people from outside coming and dictating us terms. It's good to have that advice, but let's dictate our own terms, move forward based on the work that our own Sri Lankans have done with respect to climate change.
Despite fiscal challenges, we have increased investments in research compared to previous years, signaling our commitment to science as a driver of national progress. I am pleased to inform you that the Ministry is in the final stages of formulating a comprehensive national research and innovation policy to be published soon. This policy will articulate clear priorities aligned with national development needs, ensure coherence across sectors, and provide a strategic framework of funding evaluation and research translation across many sectors: health, engineering, agriculture, technology, and social sciences. We see promising innovations that stop short of their potential. They remain as prototypes, reports, or publications. They are not scaled up. To address this, we are moving towards the creation of technology and innovation hubs as coordinating centers such as medical technology hubs, where innovations can be registered, guided, mentored, and supported along the full pathway.
Speaker of Parliament Dr. Jagat Vikramaratne announced to the House today that he has endorsed these certificates on 3 bills. Accordingly, the Speaker yesterday endorsed these certificates on bills titled Social Security Contribution Levy Amendment, the Betting and Gaming Levy Amendment, and the Strategic Development Projects Amendment. The Social Security Contribution Levy Amendment Act No. 24 of 2025 updates the 2022 Act. The Betting and Gaming Levy Amendment Act No. 25 of 2025 increases levies on bookmakers and casinos and limits previous gross collection rates to April 2023 through October 2025. The Strategic Development Projects Amendment Act No. 26 of 2025 reduces minimum tax holiday periods from 25 to 10 years, mandates new project identification and monitoring procedures by the Board of Investment, requires tax return filing, and obliges the Ministry of Finance to publish annual reports on tax expenditures. The Government Medical Officers Association questions whether the government is shielding the Indian manufacturer of the controversial ondansetron vaccine due to personal and political ties. Meanwhile, a complaint was lodged with the Criminal Investigation Department calling for an investigation into the importation procedure for Indian medicines.
On December 12th, the National Medicine Regulatory Authority suspended several batches of the ondansetron vaccine used to control nausea and vomiting following reports of complications and deaths of 2 recipients. Samagi Janabalawege parliamentarian Jagat Vithana commented on the matter in Parliament today.
A 23-year-old female patient was admitted to the infectious disease hospital on December 12th due to nausea and fainting. She was subsequently administered the ondansetron vaccine. At that time, the NMRA had already banned this vaccine and instructed all hospitals, including government hospitals, not to use it. It remains unclear whether the IDH received this notification. A few minutes after injection, the patient fainted and was pronounced dead later that night. The situation raises serious concerns. Agreements were signed in secret with the Indian Indian government and the supply of European medicines has been halted, leaving only lower quality medicines from India. We urge the authorities to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation and ensure justice for the deceased patient.
Meanwhile, the Federation of Medical and Civil Rights Trade Unions filed a complaint with the Criminal Investigation Department today. The Federation called for an investigation into the impact of the ondansetron vaccine manufactured by India's Man Pharmaceutical Private Limited and the Indian drug import mechanism.
The chairman of the State Pharmaceutical Corporation claims that politicians bear no responsibility for the procurement of substandard medicines. We would like to ask the President and Health Minister whether this is the government's official stance. Statements like this are deeply insensitive to patients who have lost their eyesight and even their lives. The current government exploited similar previous incidents to secure power.
The Government Medical Officers Association also addressed the controversy surrounding the imported vaccine.
We have serious concerns regarding the claim that this is an issue solely concerning officials and that politicians are not involved. Investigations are still ongoing and no conclusions have been reached regarding potential faults. Against this backdrop, it is problematic to state that the responsibility lies only with officials. As the situation unfolds, what is coming to light is that relatives and affiliates of certain politicians are members of institutions responsible for the situation. This also raises questions regarding possible connections between the authorities and medicine suppliers. Welcome back to First at 9. Preliminary investigations into the conduct of Sapugaskanda police following the accident involving former Speaker of Parliament and National People's Power MP Ashoka Ranwala have found several officers in breach of duty. The Inspector General of Police has ordered a thorough investigation into the incident and strict disciplinary action against the officers accused of negligence. An SUV driven by former Speaker of Parliament and National People's Power MP Ashoka Ranwala collided with a car and a motorbike in Sapugaskanda on December 11th, injuring 3 people, including an infant. MP Ranwala, who was hospitalized following the accident, was later arrested and released on bail after being produced before court virtually. However, concerns were raised over the conduct of the police in the incident, particularly the failure to conduct a timely sobriety test. Following directives from the Inspector General of Police, Deputy Inspector General of the Traffic Management and Road Safety Division, WPJ Senadira, led an investigation into the conduct of Sapugaskanda police officers. According to the report, a police sergeant arrived at the accident site at around 7:50 p.m, around 25 minutes after the collision. By 8 p.m, the officer in charge of Sapugaskanda Police and the head of its traffic division also reached the scene, but by that time the MP and the injured individuals were no longer there. The sergeant later inquired about the injured at Kiribathgoda Hospital around 9:30 p.m, but only spoke with a security officer who said the victims had been transferred to Colombo National Hospital. The sergeant did not verify the information with hospital authorities. MP Ranwala was in fact present at Kiribathgoda Hospital at the time before being transferred to the Colombo National Hospital, where he was confronted by the victim's family. The police sergeant in question was also present at the scene but left without further action due to the tense situation. The report states that police were unable to conduct a sobriety test due to Ranwala's hospitalization. In such instances, the standard procedure requires submitting a medico-legal examination form, but Sapugaskanda police failed to do so at Kiribathgoda Hospital, and the form was only handed to the MP at Colombo National Hospital the following day. Neither the officer in charge nor the traffic division head had visited either of the hospitals for investigations. The report highlights that the MP was arrested only after the IGP's intervention and that given the serious allegations and injuries, police were obligated to act immediately but failed to do so. The report finds the officer in charge, the traffic division head, the senior superintendent and other district officers to be in breach of duties. The police media division stated that the Inspector General of Police has instructed the Special Investigation Unit to carry out preliminary inquiries and take strict disciplinary action against the officers found responsible. And with that, here's a look at the latest views shared in the political arena today.
It is ridiculous to suggest that the law applies equally to all. For instance, the events that transpired concerning former Speaker Ashoka Ranwala, many contradictions apparent in society. That incident was condemned island-wide. We must carefully examine what happened. As a political party, we have taken fair decisions in the past and we will continue to do so. However, we will never allow the mandate vested in us be undermined, nor will we let anything unfair happen to our representatives over dissenting dissenting opinions.
වැරද්දක් කොතන කොහ වෙලා තියෙනවා නම්
If someone is at fault, the government will not hesitate to take legal action. There were no obstacles in the recent past, and we believe there will be none in the future as well for such decisions.
අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නෙත් නෑ.
Is this the police fault? The Minister of Public Security, Anand Vijaypala, has acknowledged a shortage in the availability of sobriety tests. If so, the minister must be held accountable. This is very confusing. The government has exposed itself to the public while attempting to conceal their party members' fault by punishing police officers. The government was involved in efforts to protect Ashok Ranwala.
The second phase of the Derana disaster relief operation aimed at providing school supplies and stationery items continued today, with donors from across the island stepping up to support children in need. The Sri Lanka-China Economic, Education and Cultural Association joined Derana today, providing school supplies for the operation. NKAR Travels and Tours also contributed stationery items to be distributed to affected children. The collected items were distributed today among students at President's College, Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte. Stationery items were also donated to Dhamma School students of the Wattala Handala Rajamaha Viharaya. Another event to donate school supplies to children was held at the St. Mary's Church in Valivita, Kaduwela. Welcome back to First at 9. Now in your stock update, the Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today. The SPI fell 0.17% to 22,292.57, while the S&P SL20 declined by 0.06% to 6,066.43. Market turnover was 2.3 billion rupees. Foreign investors were net buyers with purchases worth 126 million rupees. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.